Hi everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and today I want to talk to you about my Gold Coast Lapghan pattern. A couple of you have mentioned that you're having a little trouble getting started because the way the repeat breaks is confusing. So I wanted to show you how that works, and I think once you get the first couple of rows you're going to follow the rest with no problem. But I want to show you how that works, and I want to show it to you using the chart because the chart is the best representational picture you're going to have of the pattern, where you can see stitch by stitch how it lays out. Now I will tell you where I've broken the repeats on the chart is slightly different than where I've broken the repeats in the pattern itself. So ignore the repeat sections here. It's going to shift slightly, and I'm going to mark where it's repeating. Okay, so starting with the foundation chain. Now these X's down here, these are your edging. So you can see that up here it says edging round. The edging round starts here, goes all the way around. So we're going to ignore the edging round. Okay, we're going to start with our foundation chain right here. So the foundation chain in the pattern says 135 stitches. Let's look at just the last 5 of those. So you've got 130 chains over here, and these are the last 5. All right, 3 of those chains are going to become your first stitch. So instead of 5 stitches here, we have 1, 2, 3 stitches. See how you have to subtract 2 because they make up the top of that first stitch? So instead of 135 chains, we end up with 133 stitches because instead of 5, we have 3. So now we know our total stitch count is going to be 133 for the first row. Well, of those 133, 8 of them are going to be these skipped stitches because we're going to repeat our repeat section 8 times. So 8 of them are going to be these chain spaces over the skipped stitch. So now you know that you have 133 total. 8 of them are chains, the skipped chains. So that leaves 125 for double crochets, and that's where the stitch counts come from for that row. So now let's look at how the row breaks down in the actual repeats. Okay, you have 135 chains. You do the first 3 chains count as the first stitch, so you do your first double crochet in the 4th chain. That is 2 stitches right there. And now we're going to start our repeat section right here. Okay, so now the repeat section starts, and it is 8 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochet, then a chain 1 and a skip the chain underneath it. Okay, and then 7 more double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now here's where some people are getting confused. It says to repeat that again, and you're thinking, well, but I just did some double crochet and now it wants me to do some more double crochet. Yes, that's absolutely correct. You've got 7 double crochet here. Now you're going to do another 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you're going to skip again. Then you're going to do 7 more plus 8 more. So really it's 15 double crochet in between each of your chains. The reason it breaks where it does is because at the end of the row, you don't have a full 15. So you're going to do these 7, and then you're going to do just the last 3. So when we look at this, what we really have is we have 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches on either side of our blanket. And then in between the repeats, there's 15 stitches. So that's why the break is a little funny. So let's start. The first thing we do is, well, the first 3 chains are going to count as a stitch. So we do a double crochet in the 4th chain. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my 4th chain. And I like to work in the back bump. So that's what I'm going to do. If you want to do it differently, that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to do my double crochet in that 4th chain. Okay, now you see this is the chain 3. This is the double crochet. Chain 3, double crochet. Okay, and we're working this way because this is a wrong side row, and you can tell that because the number 1 is over here. See how the number 2 is over here? When we do the right side row, we'll be working this way. So that's how you tell which way to read the chart. Okay, so back to here. And this chart is symmetric, so it won't really matter either way. The only difference is the chain 3s at the beginning. Okay, so anyway, we have our chain 3 in our first stitch. Now the pattern says to do 8 double crochet. So let's do 8 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we have 8 double crochet. Okay, now the next thing that you'll read in the written pattern is this: chain 1 and skip 1 chain. So you see we've done our double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then we've done 8 more double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we chain 1 and we skip 1 chain underneath that chain 1. So chain 1, and we're going to skip this chain right here. Okay, then we do 7 more double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 more double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so that is what's in our brackets here. We started with these two, so forget about these two. All right, the chain 3 and the first double crochet, that was outside of our bracket. This is what's in our brackets in the pattern: 8 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and then 7 double crochet. So now we're going to work this again, starting with the 8 double crochet. So yes, even though you just worked 7, you're going to work 8 more right after that. So let's do 8 more. 1, 2, 3, whoops, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so that's our 8 more, and then the next thing we do is this gap again, right? So we do, this was our 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we do the chain 1 and skip the chain, so chain 1 and then skip a chain, and then we're going to do 7 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, now maybe you can see now why I don't just say to chain 1 and do 15, because there aren't a full 15 at the end. So I started the repeat as soon as I could after that DC in the 4th chain from the hook. So it starts with 8 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then our chain space, then 7. Whoops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one. Now I'm starting that same repeat over again with 8 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Chain space, 7 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is our repeat, and I've done it twice. You're going to do it 8 times, and when you're done you should have 3 stitches left. and you're going to just double crochet in those last 3 stitches, because see, we've ended here, right? And then we've got 3 left that we're just going to double crochet in those last 3. So double crochet, that's 1, 2, 3. And what you end up with here, is in the middle you'll have 15 stitches between each of your chain spaces, and then on each end of the blanket you're going to have 10 stitches, not 15, just 10. Okay, that's what was needed for this size. And somebody had asked about sizing it up. If you want to size it up exactly the way it is right here, then you would need to add multiples of 48 stitches, because the multiples on this pattern are different than the multiples on the edging. So you end up needing 48 stitches to get a multiple of both. But you can easily break this. Like, instead of having 10 stitches on the end, you could easily start with 5 stitches on the end and just work the pattern up to those 5 stitches. That's for more advanced crocheters. We're not going to worry about that right now. I just wanted to point it out. But that is row 1. So now let's turn and take a look at row 2. Okay, for row 2, we do actually end up following exactly where the highlighting is here. And it's going to vary back and forth between the written pattern and the charted pattern, because otherwise this line would be like zigzag. You know, it would go like this and then like that, or the written instructions would get too wordy. So where the repeat falls on the chart may not necessarily match where the repeat falls in the written pattern. But on this row it does, so great. That makes it easy. Chain 3, okay, that's our first stitch. That's easy. We all know how to do that. Now the next part of the written pattern says to double crochet in the next 7 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we can do that, 7 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, now the next thing that the pattern says is to chain 1, sorry, wrong row, chain 1 and skip the double crochet underneath it. So chain 1 and skip the next double crochet. Great, that was easy. Now it says to double crochet in the next stitch. See how this one is a double crochet into a double crochet? So let's do that. That's a double crochet in the next stitch. Then it says to double crochet into the chain space. Okay, so double crochet into the chain space. And then double crochet into the next stitch. So really this part is just do 3 double crochets, but because they're not all going into stitches, I couldn't just say double crochet in the next 3 stitches, because it's a stitch, a chain space, and then a stitch. So double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the stitch, double crochet in the chain space, and then double crochet in the stitch. Now after that, the next thing it says is to do another eyelet, which is chain 1 and skip over that stitch. So chain 1 and skip over this stitch. Great. Now after that it says to do 4 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've skipped that stitch, remember. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now you can see that this part of the row looks exactly like the charted pattern. See, here are, let me line it up perfectly. There we go. Here are our 3 double crochets, with 1 being in a stitch, 1 being in a chain space, and 1 being in a stitch, just like these 3. Here's our chain spaces right here, okay, right there. And then here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double crochet, and 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet. So I've worked this repeat section. Now I have to start the repeat section over, and it starts with 7 double crochet. So again, you're ending up with 11 total, right? Because it's 4 plus 7, but that's just where we're breaking it. So don't get confused where it ends with a double crochet and starts over again with more double crochet. That's just where the repeat breaks across the row. So, and that's because there's a different number of stitches at the edges. That's the only reason. So we start with 7 more here. 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops, 5, 6, 7. And then what comes after the 7? After the 7 there is a chain 1 and skip the stitch below it. So we didn't finish that stitch. There we go. Chain 1, skip the stitch below it, and then double crochet in the next stitch. So I did chain 1, I skipped the stitch below it, I double crochet in the next stitch. Now I have to double crochet in the next space. So I'm at a space. Great, that means I'm in the right spot. So I double crochet in the next space. And after I do that, I have to, that's right there. So after I do that, I have to double crochet in the next stitch. So double crochet in the next stitch. And then what do I have? Well, I have another gap, right? I have another eyelet. So chain 1 and skip the next stitch. Chain 1 and skip that stitch. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4 more stitches. Okay, that brings us right to the end of our row. We don't have enough for another full repeat. We have 4 stitches left. Let's see if that's correct. Yes, that's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4 more stitches. So we're going to double crochet into those last 4 stitches. 3, 4. I'm going to do one more row with you, and then I think you have the gist of the pattern well enough to be able to follow along, because it's pretty much just a variation of the same thing. You can see where our eyelets are starting to branch out like that, and that's what's going to make our diamond pattern. So they get out to a certain point and then they come back in, and that's all we're doing. So let's do the third row. Row 3 starts with chain 3 and then double crochet into the next stitch, and in the written pattern it starts with chain 3 and then double crochet in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. But you know what? I think we've got the written pattern down, so let's try following it along with the way it's showing on the chart. Okay, so chain 3 and double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can see the difference is just where we're placing our repeat section. Now we're going to double crochet. See, we started our repeat, so we're going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches. That's the same as in the pattern where I said to double crochet in 5. I'm just shifting my repeat over by 3 stitches. Okay, so I've got my 5. I've got 3 here and then 2 here. Chain 1 and skip the stitch underneath it, and then double crochet in the next stitch, right? Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next stitch. Now I'm over a chain space, so I have to double crochet in the chain space. And yes, that's exactly where I am. So double crochet in the chain space. Now I double crochet in the next 1, 2, 3 stitches. Okay, 1, 2, 3 of them are stitches, and that brings me to another chain space. And yep, that's where I am. Here's my 3 stitches, and now I double crochet over the chain space and then double crochet in the next stitch. So chain space and then the next stitch. All right, that brings me to here. Now I'm going to chain 1 and skip the next stitch to make another eyelet, and then double crochet in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now that brings me back around to here, and I start from here because that's where my repeat's starting. So I've just done 5 here, but I'm going to do another 2 here. So that makes 7 total, right? So this is 7 total here also. It's just broken up because of the chain spaces. So it's 1 in a stitch, 1 in a chain space, then 3 in a stitch, 1 in a chain space, 1 in a stitch. Well, that adds up to 7. So it's 7 between each of the chain spaces at this point. So we've done our 5. Let's do 2 more. 1 and 2, and then we do another eyelet, and then we do 7 more double crochet, and notice where the chain spaces fall. So we do 1 more eyelet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the stitch, double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in 3 more stitches, 1, 2, 3, double crochet in the chain space, and double crochet in the stitch. And that's a total of 7 right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we need to do another eyelet because that was this 7. So we do an eyelet and then 5 more double crochet. So eyelet, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more double crochet, and that brings us right down to our very last stitch. There we are, very last stitch of the round of the row, which is just a double crochet in the top of that first stitch. So double crochet in the top of our very last stitch. And there you see we're starting to get our diamond pattern, and I think you guys get an idea of how the pattern progresses along at this point. I hope that was helpful. Just follow along exactly what's written stitch by stitch, and don't feel like there needs to be something in the middle just because it stops here and starts again with more double crochets. And if you do that, I think you guys will be fine. Thanks for watching.